Okay. I thought I had the wrong microphone selected, because then for the last 3 videos I had no sound. I think I'd probably just throw in the towel and give up entirely if that was the case. Anyways, thankfully it's not. Hey guys, welcome back. We're here to do the second Read It or Unhaul It challenge. If you'd like to see the first one, the January pick, I will leave that in the description box below. I did end up forgetting to add at the end of that video whether or not I got rid of the books. I did read these two Nights in Lisbon and Look Me in the Eye. I think that was really good progress. I did forget to mention in that video at all whether or not I'm unhauling these books. I did really enjoy these books and I'm so pleased that I did finally read them, but I don't need them to take up space on my shelves. I will not be returning to these books, so I am going to unhaul them. Now, these weren't part of my Read It or Unhaul It challenge. I read 6 books. 2 of the books were checkouts from the library and 4 of the books were books from my shelves, and I'm actually going to be unhauling all 4 of these books. Yay! That feels good. But let's go ahead and choose the next book for February. Still working on Don Quixote, and I'm really going to have to think really hard and dedicate myself to that book, or think really hard if I should just DNF it and move on to the next. I feel stuck. I feel like I don't want to pick that book up, and it's kind of putting me in a slump because I feel like I made a commitment to reading it and I don't want to read it. So I feel kind of guilty. I'm kind of working on that. What is this? Is this white? I really don't want white. Ah, it's blue. Okay. I know she always shows what it is. Book of Air and Shadows? What's Book of Air and Shadows? I gotta go find this book. I literally have no idea. Blue would be in the center aisles. I think I know which one it is. Okay. This one might be kind of challenging. All right. A fire destroys a New York City rare bookstore and reveals clues to a treasure worth killing for. A disgraced scholar is found tortured to death, and those pursuing the most valuable literary find in history are about to cross the harmless, mundane into inescapable nightmare. From the author of Tropic of Night, I have no idea what that is. What you looking at, baby? Looking at the kids playing outside? Comes a breathtaking thriller that twists, shocks, and surprises at every turn as it crisscrosses centuries from the glaring violence of today into the dark shadows of truth and lies surrounding the greatest writer the world has ever known. Intricately crafted and literate work that should give the thriller genre a good shake. A rich cast of characters which is difficult to leave when the final pages are turned. Michael Gruber, the author, has been a marine biologist, a restaurant cook, a federal government official, seriously? And a political speechwriter. He lives in Seattle, Washington. When it comes to energetic writing, compellingly flawed characters, literary scholarship, and mathematical conundrums, Air and Shadow is also incredibly smart, unpredictable. We're gonna give this our best shot. If you love books, make room on your shelf, smart, packed with excitement and fascinating details about rare manuscripts and ancient modern cryptography. Well, I think that kind of helps. This is a big one. It is 462 pages. So let's go ahead and review all the books that I'm working on this month so far. That being said, I don't usually put the books that I have audiobooks on, but I am going to share that at this point of this month. So here are the books that we're working on this month. Oh, wait, I got a couple more to add. Oh, God. Y'all, my February TBR is out of control. You know, I was kind of hoping for a romance book too, because it's February. I kind of want a romance. Okay, the whole romance thing is to be determined, but I will show you a couple when we get around to it. Okay, so the February TBR. So first we have this book, obviously the one that we just picked from the jar. Then we have The Otherwhere Post. So far, so good. I'm loving this book. It's so much fun. I just haven't been giving myself the time to sit down and read it. But when I do, I just want to keep reading. Unfortunately, the last 2 nights I have started this book and I'm reading in bed and I'm like, I'm so tired. I gotta go to sleep. So I haven't made it very far. But this is really good. I'm really liking that. This book has not come out yet. It will come out in March. So something to look forward to. So I definitely want to read this book before its release in March this month. So I did want to do like an official review for this book because it was given to me by the publisher. I've been very bad about that in the past. I'm hoping to get better at that. And then we also have Don Quixote. You guys, it's been over a month. Oh, I'm 100 pages in. I have not been very good about reading my one chapter a day. It's just been so hard. There was a day where I read like 3 chapters, which wasn't a lot because they're very, very short chapters. And I was like, oh, I gotta play catch up a little bit. And I didn't recall what happened during those 3 chapters. Like, just a lot of conversations back and forth. I'm gonna give it a go for another month. I'm going to see how much farther I can get throughout the month. I'm not anticipating finishing this book by any means. I gave myself 3 months to finish this book. So we'll see how it goes. If I don't really make any more progress during this next month, I will go ahead and pick a different big classic. Then we have Shadow of Night. I read the first one. I finished the first one. Oh my god, wait a minute. Did I finish that book last month? I don't know. I did read the first one, A Discovery of Witches. It started it in 2024. I think I finished it, and then I started this one last month. And again, it's been so busy that I haven't really read a lot. Mostly I've been reading this one on my ebook, which is really hard to tell where I'm actually at in the story, so I'd have to kind of backtrack. I did something that I ordinarily wouldn't normally do, but I did watch all 3 seasons of the TV show, and now I'm kind of backtracking and going back to reading this book. So far so good. I'm loving this series. But yeah, I would like to finish this month. I should be a decent way through. I'd like to finish that this month. Then this one, I've been trying to read this one since last year. Okay, this year it has to happen, but my primary motivation for getting to this book now is my son, Aaron, because Aaron had started, because Aaron is catching up to me, so I need to finish this book so we can talk about it. But The Arc of a Scythe, he just finished Scythe last night and started Thunderhead. He took Thunderhead to school. He likes to read, but like if there's other things to do, I'm really surprised that he sat down at the breakfast table and started reading the book at the breakfast table. Like I literally had to tell him, I'm glad that you're reading, I'm glad that you like that book, but you need to eat your breakfast before school. So he is really enjoying that book. So he's like, Mom, you gotta catch up to me. Are you gonna read the last one? So yes, I will read this book. Oh, on a positive note, I actually have the audiobook for this too. I didn't think I was ever going to get it because they don't even have these at my library, but I have 3 library cards registered with Libby, and by some way or somehow they found this book on audiobook, so I have that checked out on audiobook. And then I said I wanted to read a romance, and I have, hold on, Aaron's going to come through the door. Hello.
Hi.
I'm filming a video. I'll be right there.
Oh, I'm like, why are you looking at me like that?
If you have homework, go ahead and get your homework out. Put your shoes away. And put that on the table, and I'll open it when I get done.
My bed is...
Sanko. Okay, and then because it is February, I do want to add a romance. The first ones, if I had to pick books off of my shelf, I think I would read this one, Serpent and the Wings of Night. But as you can tell, my TBR is quite full. And then part of me also just kind of wants to choose one of the numerous fantasy books off of my e-reader. Oh, one more thing. The books that I have checked out on the audiobooks that I have checked out so far, I do have Don Quixote checked out. It's kind of touch and go. I think it's okay to listen to like a chapter here or a chapter there with Don Quixote, but for the most part, I get a lot more out of it if I'm reading the physical book. I also have a book by Morgan Rice called Turned. It is a vampire story. And then I have another book called Just Like Home. It is like a horror book. I'm really interested in that. That's been on my radar for quite a while. The Debutantes, which is, it sounds so good. Kind of like a fun, lighthearted, like murder and debutantes. Super fun. And then A Court of Mist and Fury, because I finished, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I completely forgot to add that to my read books for January. My bad, I read 7 books in January. And then An Unkindness of Magicians. Recently, I was watching a YouTuber who said that she really liked that book, and I had completely forgotten about it. So, and then on Libby, I'm listening to Spells for Forgetting. I actually have to return that tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to finish it, and there are 4 people waiting for it, so we'll see if I get to finish that one. And then I have My Roommate is a Vampire. That one is due in 3 days. And then Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness. So that one I'm definitely reading. So those are all the audiobooks that I have going on. And that's everything. I will catch up with you guys later when I have reading updates. And obviously, I have a very impatient child waiting on my attention. So I will talk to you later. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Book of Air and Shadows. At first, I was really nervous about this because I thought that it was going to be maybe boring or something like that. But the author's writing style is incredible. It's beautiful. He does get really into lengthy descriptions, I would say, about certain characters. But the way he uses words is so good. Like, I'm here for it. I love to see which words he's going to choose and how to paint this picture of these things in your mind. And I think it's incredibly well done. And I absolutely love, so we have about 4 characters right now that are in the forefront of my mind. So we have this main character that you are first introduced to who has this secret document, and he's trying to see what he could do about copywriting, and he's not sure about the law, so he's talking to an intellectual property attorney about this. And I just really latched on to him talking about that with the attorney. As a paralegal student, like, if I wanted to go work at an attorney's office, I would love to work in property law because I think it is so fascinating. It was one of my favorite subjects in school, so this is just so cool. It's so interesting to me. They kind of get into the territory of when literature or when a document or manuscript becomes common knowledge. Common knowledge? What do they call it? I can't think of what they call it, what the terminology is for it, but and then he's talking about the difference of, like, if you try to publish this or copyright this in the US versus the UK. And it's just so fascinating. Like, I want to just repeat everything that I have just read, but I don't want to do that. Like, you probably could just read this book if you really like books about books. Then we go on to this segment of what this document says. It's basically just a letter to this man's wife that he wrote her, but apparently, and I'm not there yet. I think that it's like top secret. Like, it reveals something about history that nobody ever knew, I want to say. I'm thinking that's what it is. And then we go into chapter 2, how he came about this document, and it involves this like oh my gosh. If I start talking about it, I'm going to explain the entire scene, but it is just so fascinating. It's so smart. It's so, like, this author has really done his research. 33 pages in, and I'm already feeling like I don't want to put it down. But alas, it is time. I need to hit up a yoga class. I need to get active. I must go try to get in on this yoga class at 10 o'clock. My usual routine is set up to where I don't really have to think about excuses why not to go, because I get up, I get ready with my kids, which put on like my gym outfit or whatever. Then I get the kids ready for school. They leave to go on the bus. I finish my cup of coffee, and then I'm out the door, and there's not time to come up with different things to do, to get busy with different things. Like, it's the first thing I do in the morning, and then after that I can think about how I'm going to fill the rest of my day, errands, whatever. So it does take a very extra effort on my part to get busy doing something and then be like, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go to the class. And I think I'm actually going to go there a little bit early, set up my mat, and then go on the treadmill for a while and try to get some steps in. Yesterday, I did a lot of sitting while I was working on all my videos. So today, like, there are no excuses. I have to go. And I also have to go grocery shopping. So on the plus side, I do have the audiobook to this book, so I will be reading that throughout the day. I'll be listening to that throughout the day, and I will catch up with you all later. Hey guys, how's it going? It is Sunday night, and I'm going to give you a short update on the Book of Air and Shadows. I'm about 60% of the way through. I wish I would have been done with this already. I would have been, except I spent most of my day kind of working on my computer, and I was watching some movies that I had checked out from the library, which was Crimson Peak, which I thought was really good, Cloud Atlas, which it turns out I've actually watched that. This is the second time I've watched it. And now I'm kind of thinking that I'm finally getting a hold on the story a little bit better, and like maybe I want to try the book again. That is such a hard book, but that's a conversation for another day. Let's go ahead and talk about the Book of Air and Shadows because it's about our bedtime. I still need to get a shower in before bed. I just have such mixed feelings on this because in one hand, like, it's such an incredible book, but I did almost DNF it because the attorney character is so insufferable. Like, his whole narrative is just jumping from one sexual encounter to another with details. And he's just not a very, like, likable character, but you're not supposed to like him. And I guess, like, as I'm talking about it, I'm kind of like, he was just an annoying perspective to read from. But then on the other hand, we have these two characters that were working at the bookstore, and they discovered this letter that potentially one of our characters believes that it was written by Shakespeare, but it's not exactly signed. Like, they'd have to really do a lot of research in order to discover its origins. They shouldn't have had this anyways. It's technically fraudulent for them to be in possession of these. So then they kind of go behind someone's back and they sell them. And then the person that they sold them to, we're not really sure what has happened between the time of purchase and kind of this other point in his storyline, and now we have to connect those two dots, and things are starting to surface. Like, people, the stakes have upped themselves. This is a very valuable manuscript, and we've just gotten to this part where we're talking a lot more about the history of Shakespeare and the fact that it's incredible how well known he was or is, how famous he is. And yet, so much of his personal life, we don't know anything about. Like, so many people, so many creators, authors, artists, whatever, playwrights, they have journals. There's all kinds of information about their lives through journals and through letters to people and whatnot. And I guess if it's accurate, which I assume that it's accurate, if this is accurate, because I don't really know that much about that nitty gritty details about Shakespeare's life, but if it's accurate, he didn't keep any journals, he didn't write any letters to anybody where they could kind of piece together what kind of person he was or whatever. And so in this story, this letter, if it is in fact genuine, if Shakespeare wrote this, it could be just priceless, a priceless artifact about Shakespeare's life. So people are ruthless in wanting to get a hold of this. So, as you can imagine. So I find that incredibly interesting. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this. I should be finishing up with it tomorrow. And then I think that we'll probably go ahead and select another one from the jar. Hey guys, good afternoon. I am a mess. I just got back from hot yoga. It was slower flow, but it was definitely not easier. But I really like this instructor because, like, she was telling you how to adjust your posture. Like, oh, it was the low boats. So on the boat poses, she was telling you, like, because I actually do struggle with this a lot, and I wasn't sure if I was doing it right, and apparently I've been doing it wrong the entire time. So she was saying that if you're feeling the strain in your hip flexors and not in your abs, you're not doing it right. And yeah, obviously that should have been obvious to me, but I know that, like, my core is pretty weak. So I was like, well, sometimes you're gonna feel it in other places until you develop those muscles or something. I don't know. I am no freaking expert. Anyways, really good class, but I'm hot, I'm sweaty. I got lunch. I have this massive bowl of salad and a kiwi for lunch. And I souped up my salad with tomatoes, hemp hearts, a little extra feta, and mushrooms, and it is so delicious. So I got some thoughts and feelings. So I was listening to the audiobook on the way to the gym. It wasn't even a whole lot of time that I was listening to that, and I got some feelings. I have to say, I am so close to DNFing this book, but then at the same time, like, we're at the like over halfway point, and I'm listening to the audiobook, so like I'm probably just gonna end up finishing it because I still want to know what comes of these documents. Sometimes when I'm driving and I like need to take notes, I will just open up a note in my Google Keep and I will do the talk to text. So I'm just gonna read my thoughts while I was driving this morning. I don't understand why the lawyer's perspective story is so important. We're spending a lot of time on this character, but I didn't think that was really the point of the story. Overall, now we're going into the relationship with the children, and it just so happens that his daughter is going to be in a play about Shakespeare at school, which kind of makes this book now feel a bit Hallmark, and I really don't like that Hallmarky feel in a book. Like, it just so happens that everything is revolving around Shakespeare, and then again, this attorney is really gross. It's one thing for him to be sleeping around with adults a lot, but he's talking about his kids, his daughter's school. So at this point, he's like at his daughter's school. And when he's looking around, he says the words, all the young flesh. Like, is he talking about children and admiring how, I mean, we know how he thinks. And then he's also talking about the moms and how something about making them melt, which is just really annoying because he's just so full of himself and he thinks he's so desirable. Just, ew, I can't stand this guy. And I just really do not want to know anything more about his life. So then we're kind of going along talking about, and this is actually, I think, where I picked up after the gym. Anyways, we're going along and he's talking about everything that he's thinking about, and then he starts describing in detail what this person, I think one of his clients, looks like. So then he, as the narrator, pauses, and I'm listening to the audiobook, so the narrator pauses dramatically, and for a second there I like looked at my phone like, is something wrong? Did it just stop? Because I don't know, sometimes like I've had weird issues with my digital checkouts. And then all of a sudden he goes, wait, why do I give a fuck what he looks like? So immediately I'm thinking, well, why the fuck do I care who you're sleeping with? In the next sentence, he says something about a Ukrainian slut. And more things that just keep coming out of this guy's mouth or his head. I just more and more just want this book to be fucking over. That's where I'm at with this. So it's one of those like love-hate, it's one of those push and pull kind of instances though, because again, we're still trying to figure out what's going on with this manuscript. So now we enter some new characters. Going back to the main plot, the only reason to read this book is this manuscript that our original characters that we met in the first chapter, they sold it. So then we have this guy who's holding on to it, and he's wanting to know if he can copyright it. He wants the rights to it. He wants to know that it belongs to him. And he actually puts this document in the care of this attorney. So I get that the attorney is like a key factor in all of this. He's the one that's going to be able to do the research to figure out if it is even in fact legal for anyone to claim ownership of this manuscript. And then, which that part I find incredibly interesting. But I wish we could just keep our relationship with this attorney on a professional level because he's just a gross individual. Maybe we are supposed to see that he's really seedy and not a good guy because he's probably going to do something corrupt, potentially, maybe. So then he's talking to this other person, and it seems like this other person, I'm a little confused at this point now because so far I see that this manuscript went from one hand to one other hand and then to the attorney. Well, the attorney loses the document. I won't tell you how, but because of the kind of guy that he is, it gets lost. Then we have this other person coming to him being like, now you're going to guarantee me that when you find this manuscript that it's mine. And here's all the documents proving that I own this. And I'm like, wait a minute. How does this person now know about this? How did we get to this point? when it comes to this manuscript. So far, not even like less than a handful of people even know it exists. Two, well, I guess no, we implied, okay, so there is a big time gap because by the time that the person who purchased the manuscript gives it to the attorney, something has happened in that man's timeline to make him feel that he probably needs to secure it, right? So I think that we're supposed to be backtracking and figuring out what he has done with this manuscript. He's obviously talked to people. So I think that's what we're doing. So I do still really like have to know what happens with this thing. Yeah. So we're getting close to the end here. Okay, the book is done. It is done. And I'm trying to think if I had DNF'd this book back when I thought I should DNF it, and when it came down to the coup that had happened, it did kind of sort of get dumped on you, which was completely fine. But it was kind of like there were parts of the story that were really meandering that kind of did go off course. It felt like that weren't necessarily important. And sometimes if you really like the character, like maybe you like that kind of thing, but this was not even a likable character. And I'm just thinking that if I had DNF'd this book back when I started to feel like I didn't care for this book, should I have? I mean, I wouldn't have the answer to how it all went down, which I did think was pretty interesting, but overall, I don't think that this is a book that has changed me irrevocably in any way, especially, you know what I mean? Like, is this book gonna stick with me? I mean, probably not for very long. Would I recommend this book? The heater just kicked on, so if you hear a fan, I'm sorry. Anyways, you know what? I'm just happy to be done with this book. This book is definitely going in the unhaul pile. Happy to free up the space. I wanted to pick another book, but I was kind of torn on thinking maybe I should pick an anticipated 5-star book. That is really loud and annoying. All right, that ought to be better. I got my microphone. So, an anticipated 5-star book. I'm kind of leaning towards that, but then also it's almost Valentine's Day. Now, I'm not big on Valentine's Day. My husband and I, he usually always does something really sweet and gets me a surprise, usually in the way of sugar, which both of us are trying to be better about cutting sugar from our diet. And he's going to be away this coming up weekend for Valentine's anyways. So it's just going to be me. My son is actually going to be off on the 15th helping for the evening. It's called Parents Night Out. Technically it's for Parents Night Out if parents want to get out on Saturday the 15th for a date night, but my husband's not even here, but my son wants to go and help with their Nerf war. So I'm just going to have a selfie date, and I'm going to be my own Valentine this year. So I was thinking about maybe even just doing a separate vlog for that, and I might end up choosing a romance to read for that day. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. I forgot where I left off. Okay, so I was kind of torn on what to do next. I was thinking maybe a really good idea would be to pick an anticipated 5-star book. But then as I looked around, I was like, no, I don't know. I think we're just going to go ahead and select something from the jar. So I am going to go ahead and allow myself to repick if it's a book that's really large or I can't get into. Okay, it's a blue one, so I don't know what that says. Oh, don't step on my computer. So stop recording. Okay, here's the paper. I haven't seen it yet. What is it? Oh, Nothing to See Here? I don't think that's a long book. I bet you there's an audiobook. Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson, and this was actually a book of the month book that I found thrifted or whatever. And I completely forgot why I picked this up. I kind of have a strong feeling that this book is probably not going to work for me, and it might end up being a DNF, but it's actually really short. Lillian and Madison were unlikely roommates and yet inseparable friends at their boarding school. But then Lillian had to leave school unexpectedly in the wake of scandal, and they've barely spoken since. Until now, more than 10 years later, when Lillian gets a letter from Madison pleading for her help. Madison's twin stepkids are moving in with her family, and she wants Lillian to be their caretaker. However, there's a catch. The twins spontaneously combust when they get agitated, flames igniting from their skin in a startling but beautiful way. Lillian is convinced that Madison is pulling her leg, but it's the truth. Thinking of her dead end life at home, the life that has consistently disappointed her, Lillian figures she has nothing to lose. Over the course of one humid, demanding summer, Lillian and the twins learn to trust one another and stay cool, while also staying out of the way of Madison's buttoned-up politician husband. Surprised by her own ingenuity, yet unused to the intense feelings of protectiveness she feels for them, Lillian ultimately begins to accept that she needs these strange children as much as they need her, urgently and fiercely. Couldn't this be a start to an amazing life she'd always hoped for? Within white-hot wit and a big, tender heart, Kevin Wilson has written his best book yet, the most unusual story of parental love. Okay, let's go ahead and give this one a try, and I'll keep you posted. All right, take two. Apparently, this video did not record correctly when I went to stop it. So, let's give this another try. Just like yesterday, I just got home from hot yoga. It is raining out today, so I am ready to just, after I take my shower, just like relax in bed, listen to the rain, read a book. It's been a really long time since I've just done that. And we're gonna talk about Nothing to See Here. I've got my lunch here and I've got my yogurt. Let's go ahead and talk about Nothing to See Here. So just like yesterday as well, I ended up recording my thoughts on a Google Keep note. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start reading from that note. So obviously this book, you already know, it's about these two kids who spontaneously ignite into fire. I suppose it could be a metaphor for unwanted children or something because the father is a politician. And we know how politicians are, like they want to keep their secrets brushed under the rug. And so like, I think that it could be a metaphor for like every time he looks at these kids, they like, it's like about to watch their secret combust, you know what I mean? Like he doesn't want people to find out about them. Part of me wanted to kind of keep reading because of the whole bond between the kids and this nanny lady. But I'll be honest, I just don't think that I'm going to like this book. The writing style is not great. It's not my style. The dialogue seems very unnatural and it's just really quirky. And again, like obviously it's supposed to be quirky. You know that from the second you read summary of the book. And I think my original interest was really to kind of see this bond between the nanny and the kids. It kind of feels cartoony. It feels hokey. It feels like, I wish I had the right adjective to describe what this is, but I guess cartoony is probably the best description of what this kind of feels like. And I do want like quirky and unique unhinged books, but I have read other unhinged books, but they really hit at something real, and this one is just too cartoony to do that for me. That is something that I have been learning about my reading taste, is once it starts feeling like cartoony or hokey, I really start to lose interest, especially compared with how unnatural the dialogue feels. And then especially this last scene, the point at which I'm deciding to DNF this book is where the governess or nanny character, the language, and the reason I say that and the reason I said that is because the Madison, the wife or whatever, she kind of wants to call her a governess because it sounds fancier because she's like all fancy and stuff. And then the main character kind of thought, oh, like a nanny. So they kind of seem to keep going back and forth on the language of that, but whatever. Anyways, so a little bit of the backstory is when the nanny and this guy went to go pick up the kids, there was an incident. She got soaked. She needed to borrow clothes. She needed to borrow dry clothes from the house that they were at. And she ended up putting on this muumuu. She calls it a muumuu dress. So that's how she's wearing this. Then when they go see the kid's dad, they start to spontaneously combust. So she takes off the entire dress, uses it as like gloves to be able to grab the children and calm them down. And then once she gets them calm, they're all just standing there talking while she's standing in her underwear. And then to make it even more stupid, they were going to plan to go take the kids on a tour or go do something. And the kids were like, are you going to put on some clothes? And she like, oh yeah. She was like, Oh, yeah, I guess I should do that. Like, you forgot you are standing in your underwear in front of kids. I just thought it was so dumb. I thought it was like one of the dumbest scenes. So, this is officially a book that I'm going to DNF. Pleased to get it off my shelves. And we're actually going to come back around and select another book from the jar. But I want to go downstairs where the jar is, and I might take my shower before we do that as well. So, I will see you back in just a second. Okay. Sora, I know. He wants to go get into stuff. You can't. Not right now. You're knocking everything over. Alright, I've decided to actually do this now before my shower because when I'm done with my shower, first of all, I don't really like filming when my hair's all wet. I don't know why. Not like it looks any better right now, but I just don't. And then after my shower, I just wanna lay in bed and read and listen to the rain and stuff. So, are you gonna be a good boy? He's looking for things to get into. Alright, now let's go. Pick another one. Alright, let's go all the way down to the bottom, maybe. We got a purple one. It says Paranormalcy. I'm happy with that one because Paranormalcy by Kristen White. I'm actually really excited about this. I do think it is young adult fantasy and it's not very long. I think it will be a nice short read. I should be able to finish it before Friday, before Valentine's Day, because I wanted to do a Valentine's themed reading vlog for the weekend. So yeah, this is what we're gonna read. I actually kind of forgot what this book is about. Weird as it is, working for the International Paranormal Containment Agency, Evie's always thought of herself as normal. Sure, her best friend is a mermaid, her ex-boyfriend is a fairy, she's falling for a shapeshifter, and she's the only person who can see through paranormal's glamours. But still, normal. Only now, paranormals are dying, and Evie's dreams are filled with haunting voices and mysterious prophecies. She soon realizes that there may be a link between her abilities and the sudden rash of deaths. Not only that, but she may very well be at the center of the dark fairy prophecy, promising destruction to all paranormal creatures. So much for normal. Based on the summary of this, I think this could actually work for some Buffy themed books as well. Anyways, let's go ahead and read this and I will keep you updated. I do hope that it goes very well though. Like, I really want to love it. It's kind of a give or take on these young adult fantasy books because they could be a little bit cheesy. So I am kind of going into it with a little bit lower expectations as well, with the hesitant expectations that you might have. Let's hope that it exceeds those expectations and becomes a really good book. There is a series as well. I want to say there's like 4 or 5 books. Maybe there's like 4 books to the series, I think. Anyways, I hope that it's good enough that I want to continue on with the series. Hey guys, how's it going? It is literally the same day. I chose this book earlier today and I have finished this book. It's just about my bedtime. And I can't believe I actually finished this book in a day. It was the help of, this is actually just a really quick read. And it was with the help of an audiobook. So I first started reading it with the audiobook and then I fell asleep. But I had also realized that I wasn't really connecting to the audiobook. I will say that the audiobook narrator has kind of an annoying voice, but I've definitely heard worse. So then I ended up picking up the physical book. I read about 80 pages of it, and then my kids got home and it was like time to do dinner, and I had decided I was going to clean the house. So I turned on the audiobook, and since I had already been invested in the story, it was a lot easier to then switch over to listening to the audiobook. That went really well. I finished up with the audiobook. But I ended up really liking this book. So we are following a girl named Evie. She works for the IPCA, International Paranormal Containment Agency. She was actually raised by them. The woman, the head of the agency, is basically like a mom to her, even though she was the story is that she was dropped off or something like that. She's an orphan essentially. She has spent her life with the agency and hasn't really seen the outside world. So everything all of her influence is what was delivered to her through the agency. And this does kind of come up in the story. She actually does have a bit of a gift to see past glamours. All kinds of different creatures use glamours to hide their true nature. Vampires, I guess the vampire creature that you see, there's actually like a dead corpse behind the facade. There's fairies in this book. She can see their true nature. There is a shifter in this book, and she can tell that they're different. She is being kind of haunted by this one fairy who just seems to keep finding her. He wants to like dance with her and she wants to stay away from him, but she just can't seem to get away from him. He can kind of like open up a door anywhere and just go there. So they actually use fairies to get all over the world so that they can go monster hunting. This agency finds paranormals, will take them into custody, and sometimes they can actually get them jobs. There is a mermaid that is her best friend. She's kind of like she takes all the phone calls and tells people where the paranormals are to go find them. They call her a lot. They call Evie a lot because she can spot the paranormals because of her gift. Then one day there is a character who comes in who is a shifter and he won't give them any kind of information. So they lock him up. She is very interested in this person. She wants to get to know him. And a lot of that also comes because really lonely and there's not a lot of people around her, especially not people her age. So she starts wanting to hang out with this character. And then the rest of this, there's just so much action, so much happening. Our main character realizes that there's been a lot of secrets, a lot of information that was not told to her. And yeah, so I thought this book was really good. I really enjoyed this. I will be continuing on with the series. I don't have the other physical books. My library, I found this on Hoopla, and Hoopla has the rest of the series, but I've already checked out my last checkout with this book, so I'll have to wait till next month to be able to check out those books. But that's okay because I am still working on some other stuff. I am trying to read the Otherwhere post. It's holding up my laptop right now, so it's back there. But I'm hoping that I've gotten really invested in that, but I did want to finish out this vlog, so I put that one on hold to read Paranormalcy. But I have been getting really attached to the Otherwhere post. So I think with some intense reading sessions in the next few days, I should be able to finish it by the end of the week. So I'm going to finish out this vlog. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this, and we'll see you soon. Bye.